violated the human rights of Obianuju Catherine Ude and 2 others. The ruling delivered yesterday found Nigeria in breach of several articles of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. The court found that the state's duty to investigate and the right to an effective remedy. Justice Koroma Mohammed Sengu, the judge rapporteur who delivered the judgment, said the court dismissed the allegation that the right to life as guaranteed under Article 4 of the ACPHR is violated. However, he said that the respondent must pay each applicant 2 million naira as compensation for violations of their security of person, prohibition of torture and cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment, rights to freedom of expression, assembly and association, duty to investigate human rights violations, and the right to effective remedy. Additionally, the Nigerian government must adhere to its obligations under the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, investigate and prosecute its agents responsible for these violations, and report to the court within 6 months on the measures taken to implement these judgments. In the meantime, APAC's Igbo Socio-Cultural Organization, Ohaneze Ndigbo Youth Council Worldwide, has urged Southeast governors and other political leaders in the zone to ignore Simon Ekpa's opposition to their planned negotiation for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's release. You will recall that Ekpa, the self-acclaimed Prime Minister of Biafra government in exile, had in a statement a few days back said the governors lacked the legitimacy to negotiate for Kanu's freedom. However, in a statement made available to journalists today, the national president of Ohaneze Ndigbo Youth Council Worldwide, Mazi Oku Nnabuike, appealed to the governors to go ahead without hesitation and approach the federal government for Kanu's release. Oku said the governors remain the leaders of the zone and wondered how someone in faraway Finland would accuse them of lacking legitimacy. Ohaneze Youth urged the governors to go ahead and initiate every step that would ensure that Kanu is released in the shortest time possible. In a recent development, the Nigeria security agencies are ramping up their vigilance due to potential threats from the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, only 12 days following a devastating suicide bombing in Gwoza, Borno State, which resulted in at least 20 fatalities. The suicide bombings were linked to a faction of Boko Haram from which ISWAP has splintered. The Nigerian government has discreetly instructed all relevant security bodies to brace for possible attacks. Now, according to Premium Times, an intelligence memo dated July 10 suggests ISWAP's plan might include targets such as prisons and key oil and gas infrastructure. Detailed in the memo, high-risk targets include notable correctional facilities like Kuje Correctional Center in Abuja, Kaduna Central Prison, Port Harcourt Maximum Prison, and Kirikiri Correctional Center in Lagos. The Ajaokuta Kaduna Kanu AKK pipeline, a significant gas transportation project managed by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, is also at risk. Security agencies have been directed to extend their vigilance to cover not just the mentioned sites, but also other potential targets. And the Federal Executive Council has sanctioned the release of 2,000 tractors and other vital farming equipment as part of the National Agricultural Mechanization Program, NAMP. President Bola Tinubu's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, made this announcement via his X handle, summarizing the key outcomes of the FAC meeting held in Abuja. The approval also includes various spare parts aimed at enhancing Nigeria's agricultural productivity. According to Ononuga, the procurement includes 2,000 tractors, 4,000 disc plows, 1,000 disc reachers, 1,200 tractor trailers, and assorted spare parts. These items that support the National Agricultural Mechanization Program to ensure national food security. Now, this initiative follows the government's earlier decision to suspend taxes and import duties on essential food items like rice, wheat, and beans for 150 days to combat rising food inflation, which reached 40.66% in May. Additionally, President Tinubu recently announced the creation of the Livestock Development Ministry, aimed at resolving long-standing conflicts between farmers and herders that contribute to food insecurity. Well, now joining me to discuss issues in the news this afternoon, I have with me political, social and national affairs analyst, Mr. Peter Anosike. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Let's talk first about the Supreme Court granting local governments, finally, financial autonomy. You do know that the federal government and state government, there's been a tussle in court where the state government is saying, look, we should keep being responsible for the local government, while the federal government is saying, no, we want the local government to be autonomous, and the court has said, look, you can. The court has actually given a judgment saying that at least when it comes to financial autonomy, the local government should be able to handle their own finance. And I really want to ask, what would this have on the general? What effect would this have on the general administration of local government in Nigeria? Should we look forward to it being better now that they have control of their finances?
Well, for me, the most important thing here is implementation of the court decision, of the Supreme Court decision. But on the other hand, I see it as a welcome development, a victory for democracy, a victory for rule of law, and a victory for the masses. Because for many years now, the funds that are supposed to be given to the local government are given through the state governments. And most of the time, or all the time, the state government retains this money. And that's why the local government is not functioning. Go to most of the local government in the country, especially if you go to Amward of it, that's first stack, it's dead.
When you say dead, what do you mean?
No infrastructure. No infrastructure. And the eyes are always on the state governments, not the local government. So without finance, nothing can happen. Without money, there cannot be development. So I see this as a welcome development, and from now henceforth, there will be developments in the local government when they begin to manage their own resources. Then other people can now be holding their local government chairman responsible directly instead of the governors, because the constitution stated that there are 30 years of government: the federal, state, and the local government. And the local government are the nearest to the people, but they are not functioning because the state government take the resources that belong to them. So with this judgment, things is going to change in the third year of government.
One part of the judgment speaks on the validity of the appointment of caretaker appointees as local government officials. Now, the Supreme Court held that a democratically elected governor has no power to remove a democratically elected LGA official and to appoint a caretaker committee, saying it is unconstitutional. But then the question is, how do we know that this autonomy is not more grounds for local government to embezzle in droves? What is the process of accountability? How do we know that these monies will actually be channeled for the greater good of the people who are closer to who are in the grassroots?
You cannot tell until you try. You cannot tell until you try. The same constitution that brings up or the president, brings up the governor, and also brings up the chairman of the local government. But you can see governors running for 8 years with an appointed caretaker committee chairman or transitional committee chairman, which is not what the constitution says. And this ruling has also ensured that no money will be given to an appointed local government chairman, which means governors must start now to conduct local government elections.
That is in states where they are having issues with the local government, or where the tenure has elapsed. River State, for example.
Where they are appointed. Where they are, because they go on under various names like CTC chairman, that's a transitional committee chairman, or caretaker committee chairman. But that's not what the constitution says. Constitution says there must be election in the local governments. So if they are appointed, they don't have executive powers. But if they are elected, they'll have executive powers just like the governor and the president.
Talking about these executive powers is something that many local government chairmen, the ones that are gone, the ones that are there now, they have not held before. And that's why I'm asking what the process of accountability will be. Will it be something that will be published? Now, local government chairmen, local governments have always talked about how they were being handcuffed because the state controls their finances. Now that it seems that they are finally free, right? How immediately can they commence work to actually see that the people at the grassroots get good governance and that they are financially free and they can't control their finances?
Well, the problem in Nigeria is implementation of decisions. It is implementation of it is a very good judgment, but can they implement it to the full? That's the problem that we are going to have. And mind you, Elections in the local government are conducted by the State Electoral Committee, not INEC. So, which means the state governors will still pick those who they want to become chairman. Understand me? Just like in River State Electoral Committee will conduct the forthcoming elections into River State local governments. Just like Nnasec, Lagos State Electoral Committee conducts the elections for local government chairman in Lagos State. So governors will still determine who they want to be local government chairman, and those that won will still be those who are in good book of the governors, and they will be responsible for the governors who help them to get into those offices.
All right, let's actually move on in the conversation today. The IPOB is speaking to the Nigerian army, has said they should call criminals by their names and do that actually immediately. Now they were reacting to claims by the Nigerian army that its men invaded ESN camp and captured an ESN commander in Olu and Okigwe local government areas of Imo State, saying that these criminal elements are actually operating on their own and they should not be tagged as IPOB and the ESN members. And now the question is, we've had several issues when the Nigerian army will come out and say criminal elements did this and did that. When IPOB is saying put a name to these people so we can actually know the people who are doing these things, would you say that they are right?
They are 100% right. A lot of criminals in the southeast are hiding under IPOB and ESN and committing atrocities. I know that a lot of those things are not being done by the true members of IPOB. So when they arrest an armed robber in the southeast, they should say that an armed robber has been arrested and not that an IPOB member or an ESN member. So they should be specific. A lot of criminals that they are arresting in the southeast are not members of IPOB or members of ESN. But they always want to put everybody in the same basket, which is wrong. Which is very, very wrong. So when they arrest a bandit, a kidnapper, an armed robber, they should say that an armed robber has been arrested and not an IPOB member. So I believe that IPOB is right.
So when you say IPOB is right, let's actually look at the fact that there has been case. For example, you know that IPOB, would you say they have two factions now? We have Nnamdi Kanu, we have Simon Ekpa, who is more or less controlling things from Finland, which Ohanese youth has come out to actually...
Excuse me, we have just one IPOB headed by Mazi Nnamdi Kanu.
So what is Simon Ekpa doing?
He is a criminal hiding under that name, IPOB.
IPOB is saying that the Nigerian military and their sister security agencies want to destroy ESN, in their words, in order to pave the way for Fulani terrorists to destroy our farmlands, but that will not happen. Would you say that that's something that is actually already happening?
Well, they have done it in the past through anti-Igbo governors. But I'm sure with developments in the country now, especially with this livestock ministry, those things are coming, will gradually come to an end.
You believe that the livestock ministry will actually end farmers' herders clash in any part of the country?
That's if there's full implementation, it will stop it.
Okay, let's look at in the east. Whenever there are violent attacks on police stations, for example, the Ebonyi State police station attack that happened recently, the Aba killings that also happened recently, which it was so violent and many people condemned it, and it seems that the Nigerian army would always just say, "Oh, this is IPOB, this is IPOB, this is IPOB," without proper investigation, and IPOB always comes out to the bomb.
Nigeria army are just giving Igbos bad name for no just cause. Those are criminal elements. So we know what the Nigerian army is doing, and we are getting tired of it. Those things are being done by criminal elements in the east. There are criminal elements anywhere in the country. We have them in the north, we have them in the southwest, we have them in the southeast, we have them in the south. There are good people and bad people everywhere in the world.
It is very I'm quoting what IPOB spokesperson Ima Powerful said verbatim. It is very unprofessional for them to tag every criminal element captured as IPOB and ESN just for media blackmail against IPOB and propaganda to continue their criminal activities. You said that the Nigerian army wants to give Igbos a bad name. Would you not say that that is a generalization?
That's what Nigerian army is doing, just to give Igbos a bad name. When you catch an armed robber, treat him as an armed robber and not begin to look for where he belongs to. IPOB members are not armed robbers. They are not violent people. So they should be differentiating who they arrest.
But how can they tell who is IPOB and who is not?
When you arrest an armed robber, treat him like an armed robber. When you arrest a kidnapper, treat him like a kidnapper and not looking for where he belongs to.
All right, let's look at the fact that an Ecowas court has ruled that the Nigerian government actually violated human rights during NSAS protests. And that is to say that they're saying, oh, the Nigerian government actually violated the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. They've directed the Nigerian government to actually investigate, prosecute its agents that are responsible for these violations, and to report to the court within 6 months on all the measures they've taken to implement these judgments. Now the question is this: ECOWAS chairman is Nigeria's president. Do you actually see this judgment being implemented?
Well, without even if he's the president of Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, or whatever, ECOWAS court is just a kind of a ceremonial court. It doesn't have any power to enforce anything. So this is just psychological thing. The UN Charter, ECOWAS Charter, our Constitution give us that the right for association, the right of speech, and so on and so forth. So we know what they did during the NSAS. They violated a lot of human rights. So it is a right decision, only that it cannot be implemented because ECOWAS court is a toothless bulldog.
You do not believe that this can actually be implemented?
They don't have any,
you don't see anything coming out of it?
They don't have any power of enforcement. ECOWAS court has no power of enforcement.
And that's why they've handed it to the Nigerian government to actually enforce it on their behalf as a member of ECOWAS.
A house divided against itself cannot stand.
So you're saying that ECOWAS cannot actually force the Nigerian government to enforce this?
They cannot. And that criminality was enforced by the Nigerian state.
How?
We had videos of Nigerian soldiers shooting armed civilians at Lekki toll gate. So this is Nigerian state against the Nigerian masses. Then how can the Nigerian state move against itself? That's why I said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So it's just for psychological reasons. They have gotten judgment, but which cannot be implemented.
So the people who are happy about this, that it actually shows that what Nigerians have been saying since 2020 is right. They are not right to be happy about it since nothing will come out of it.
Nothing is going to come. ECOWAS court is a toothless bulldog.
All right, you're listening to the news at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM, and I've been talking with Mr. Peter Anosike on issues in the news today. Before we go, Mr. Anosike, I want to quickly ask a question on this news where the federal government is to distribute 2,000 tractors and other farming equipment to enhance food security. This is following the president actually recently announcing that there's be a creation of a livestock development ministry, and also an initiative where the president's approved the suspension of taxes and import duties on essential food items like rice, wheat, and beans for 150 days, all to combat rising food inflation. Do you think this will actually help?
Well, for me, it is a good move. It is a good move because that's the only way to go. We are no more farming in this country. Fulani herdsmen has taken over all the farms. Benue State, which used to be the food basket of the country, are no more farming. Plateau State, which produces a lot of cereals in the country, has been taken over by Fulani herdsmen. So the only way is to import food. When they were saying that Nigeria is big enough that to feed itself, I told myself that these people are joking. The only way that can go is to import food. And that's what they have decided to do.
Still on economic hardship, our former President Olusegun Obasanjo has actually tackled President Tinubu over economic hardship. He's saying that the president is operating, in his words, tired old recipes from the IMF and the World Bank. He's also asking if President Tinubu's administration wanted to shock Nigerians to death with his economic policies.
Well, when you don't have ideas, when you don't have anything upstairs, IMF will think for you. So right now, IMF, World Bank are thinking for Nigerian leaders because Nigerian leaders have nothing in their brains. Understand? So when you don't have any leadership things, IMF, you begin to implement the IMF policies. So that's what Tinubu's government has been doing since May 29, 2023.
And as long as we continue to follow these policies, you don't see the country leaving this economic quagmire we are in at the moment.
It is the wickedness of the Western world against Africa. That's what IMF is. It is a punishment against Africa. Their program, their policies will continue to undevelop Africa. It cannot develop Africa.
Is it then that the leaders who are responsible for making lives better for the people do not know this?
Because they cannot think of an alternative. They cannot think of an alternative.
And so Nigerians, Africans will continue to suffer because of this IMF and World Bank policies.
I say the head of state of Burkina Faso, Traoré, rejected IMF finances. He said, go with your money, I don't want it. Because he has alternatives. A desperate person will be ready to sign anything, will be ready to take anything. Understand? Once you cannot think outside